All right. Live. Hopefully stream's all good. We're back. It's Coach. It's Henry. It's me. And boy, it's my first Flurry stream, but we've been talking writing football for months now already, it seems. But football's officially back. Before we dive fully into it, thank you for being with us. Those of you who are returning fans from last year, maybe new to the stream, new to Flurry fandom this year. This is the core group of start sit guys that you're going to be seeing every Thursday or Friday. We haven't quite figured out a set schedule yet. But again, thank you for joining us, and hopefully we're able to help you to some playoff appearances and some victories here this year. So just real quick before we get into it, we got a hard out at 7 o'clock tonight. So we're not going to waste too much time before we really get into the nitty gritty football here. But Coach, the show revolves around you, around your articles. You're back again writing them this year. How you doing? Looking forward to the season here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You're making me blush here. I appreciate it, but I love our breakdowns of kind of going over recommendations I throw out there, and I feel like I come out of this and I always get my get some start sit advice from both you guys as well. So looking forward to another great year of doing this.
Yeah, we had a pretty good track record as a group last year. Henry, you excited? Obviously, you've been probably the one streaming most consistently out of all of us for the Burnt Rubber Racing podcast. Now you got to see our ugly mugs again on a weekly basis. How excited are you for this fantasy football season?
Compared to Zach McAdoo, you guys, you take the cake. You're both handsome gentlemen.
That's
true.
You
can tell him I said that 100%. He was tearing me apart yesterday. Shameless plug for our little NASCAR Motorsports podcast there. But yeah, I'm excited to talk football. NFL's finally back. It's good to see college go off, and a lot of great games last week. Some shocking upsets that threw me for a loop. So who knows what's in store for week one of the NFL season here this week too. And excited to talk fantasy.
Yeah, and I somehow found myself roped into 7 different fantasy leagues this year, which is the most I've done in probably 5 or 6 years since I really started getting heavily into fantasy. But we got the Pirate League, we got my Dynasty League, we got the Auction League, and then I'm in like 4 or 5 snake draft leagues as well. So I'm going to really need you guys this year because I've got pretty much every player in the NFL on one of my rosters. So let's talk a little bit about what happened last night, a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll move forward through Coach's articles. Of course, if you want to take a look any more in depth into Coach's articles, because we're not going to analyze them and pick them apart sentence by sentence like we maybe have in the past. Make sure you head over to FlurrySports.org. I'm assuming, Coach, did you tweet these articles out, or will you be tweeting them out every week in the future?
Yeah, I did at Coach Schroeder as my Twitter handle. Yep.
Perfect. So head on over there if you want to, take a more in-depth look after the stream or want to follow along with us. Those are available at FlurrySports.org. So a couple things. Obviously, let's start with some injuries. Unfortunate for the Ravens as their original starter went down in J.K. Dobbins, and then their pretty, I guess, highly touted backup running back Gus Edwards, who you will find in one of Coach's articles. Probably not going to want to start him anymore as he's also out for the year. If you've been paying attention, there's some massive names on that practice squad. You got your Le'Veon Bells. Todd Gurley's still floating out there, I believe. What are we going to do with the Ravens as a whole? Is this just a backfield that you're trying to avoid the rest of the season? Does this affect your outlook on Lamar Jackson at all? How are we going about this Ravens offense now that they just can't have a healthy running back?
Yeah, so myself personally, I right when the news broke yesterday and Zach wrote a nice article on Flurry Sports, I jumped on Tyson Williams in my college buddy league. That's my kind of my league of integrity, as it were. I had Gus Edwards. I dropped him. I saw that it looked like it was the torn ACL. I still like Tyson Williams. I think it'll be him. And then they just signed Latavius Murray, Devontae Freeman, and Le'Veon Bell. So you got the dream team of practice squatters right there. I think Le'Veon Bell got bumped up, so I think he's on the active roster. But Tyson Williams sounds like it's going to be his backfield to at least go with week one. I still like him as a start this week. I take everything I put about Gus Edwards in the article and throw it on Tyson Williams. Funniest stat I came across as I was writing this was that over the last 2 years, the Ravens have run the ball over just about 200 times more than the next closest team in football, which, you got Lamar Jackson's taken about a third of that. Mm-hmm. So that means you still have a boatload of carries to go around with Tyson Williams, probably Le'Veon Bell this week, and then we'll see going forward. It might just be week to week, and who knows? Maybe it'll just amount to last man standing.
And Henry, obviously, nobody out there has room on their bench to go pick up, 2 or 3 potential guys from the Ravens backfield. You're going to have to kind of, plant your flag in one of them. Is Williams your guy? Do you go with like the sexy Le'Veon Bell? Maybe it's not so sexy anymore, but it is Le'Veon Bell. We know what he was able to do not so long ago. If you can only pick up one of those guys, who you going after?
I think you got to go with Williams if he somehow isn't added already at this point. He is the guy, and Justice Hill is banged up here. I don't recall off the top of my head what his injury was, but I know he's not available this week for sure. So honestly, for me, you can't go wrong looking at a Le'Veon Bell, and I would also be looking at Latavius Murray. Now, they just brought him in, so I don't know about week one necessarily throwing a Murray or a Le'Veon Bell in your starting lineup. And Coach was right. Bell did get moved up from the practice squad. Devontae Freeman signed to the practice squad yesterday, and then Murray was a second add. So at this point, I don't know who else you look at here other than Tyson Williams, and Bell would be the second guy that I'm looking to add right now. And Latavius Murray, he'd be coming in, I think, almost for me. When it gets to that point, I think he's going to need a little time, obviously, to, learning the playbook and whatnot. But I could see Latavius Murray being more the Gus Edwards role than, say, a Le'Veon Bell, just in terms of their running style. And I think I would rather have Murray at this point, given their 2 career paths. So maybe, if you land Bell here now, maybe swap him out for Murray on waivers next week or something. But definitely following those 2, I think, behind Williams.
Well, one of the crazy parts, too, and Justice Hill hurt his Achilles. He's done for the season as well.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I knew he was hurt, and I totally blanked on what the injury was, so my bad.
Yeah. But it's amazing to me that you have 3 running backs now go down with, season-ending injuries, and there's still debate, and there's still plenty to go around. Like, what do we do with the other backs that they have now? It really is kind of a strange situation that they've had 3 guys go down, and we're still sitting here debating about 2, possibly 3 other guys that could actually make an impact. So it'll be interesting to keep up with the Ravens. But I think one thing that you said out of everything, Henry, you're not starting any of these guys in week one, really, are you? Except for maybe Williams if you're in a pinch. But there's got to be other more proven, deeper guys that you have on your bench that are maybe not going to be so much of a risk week one. Am I off here? Would you guys take that risk week one, or are you stashing and seeing how things go for the Ravens and opening Sunday here?
So I would play Tyson Williams this week if I were in a bind. And I think he's pretty safe this week. I'd be more leery about possibly next week unless he does well this week. If he goes out there and has a great game, you have more confidence going forward in him. I just don't see Le'Veon Bell getting a ton of work coming in off the street.
Sure.
I think Tyson Williams he's been there all preseason. He's done well in the preseason too. I had him in a couple DFS lineups during the preseason. He did pretty well. So I would go with him this week. I would still start him, but kind of moving forward, it's a little touch and go as far as how he does this week, I think.
Well, it also probably depends on, are you in an 8 or a 10-man league? Or are you in a 12, 14, 16-man league? That's going to be a big, big factor here. I don't need him on any of my fantasy rosters. That's kind of just how it worked out, but I'm sure other people with a different perspective on that. But either way, the Ravens backfield going to be something to watch, and probably a bit of a gamble from week to week as well. So it should be interesting. Let's move forward to talk about Zeke a little bit. Zeke didn't get a ton of work last night. Obviously, I think he had like 2.5 fantasy points at halftime. That was going around Twitter. But a lot of that, from what I saw, that was schemed that way. They never came into the game intending to use Zeke more than they did. He was used a lot, primarily as a blocker last night, a lot of key blocks. And they kind of just avoided that defensive line of the Buccaneers. So I think Zeke is still a plug-and-play guy. Obviously, you probably took him in the first, if not early second round of your fantasy draft. He was disappointing last year. I don't think we're going to see an entire year of disappointment again this year. Like, yeah, it kind of stunk what you got out of him week 1, but Zeke's a plug-and-play guy and not really think about it for me. I don't know about for you guys. What do you see? Or I guess the Cowboys proved last night that they don't need to use Zeke as like that workhorse guy, and they can still find success. So do you think that we see Zeke handle the ball 25 times again this season, or is it going to have to be he makes the most out of whatever touches he gets? Pollard obviously there and can affect the game as well on offense. We don't have to spend a ton of time on him because probably, like I said, you took Zeke early on. You're probably going to play him. But what's your outlook on Zeke for this year? We'll start with you, Henry.
It's not good. I own no shares of Ezekiel Elliott in any league. I am perfectly happy that I don't own any shares of Ezekiel Elliott. And back when we did the FlurrySports expert mock draft, I took Tyreek Hill at like 1.6 because Devontae Adams went ahead of me because I did not want Ezekiel Elliott. And last night, I think that's Exhibit A, one of the reasons why I didn't want him. I think Tony Pollard's the better back. I'm going to be completely honest. I think Ezekiel Elliott, he was great at the beginning of his career. You got Zach Martin banged up on the Cowboys offensive line, an offensive line that I don't care what anyone says. It is not what it was when Elliott first came into the league there, his first 2 years. Dak Prescott looked good last night, so I have to say my concerns about the passing attack are pretty much done away with here at this point. But that was another concern I had drafting was what is the passing game going to look like? Is our defense is going to be able to load the box against Elliott? I'm happy. I have nothing, no part of him this year. And I mean, obviously, if you drafted him in the first round, you're playing him. But I would be looking to maybe get a good game out of him next week or the week after, a couple of good games after this dud, and I'd be selling him quick.
Well, that was going to be my next question proposed to you, Coach. The Cowboys, they just have such an immense amount of talent on the offensive side of the ball, and they were able to use all of it last night. They spread it out, and everybody was able to affect the game in a positive way. Even Michael Gallup, who did nothing for me in our Madden sim the other night, giving me the 12th overall pick. But the Cowboys able to use everybody, not really necessarily a great sign for Zeke. I wanted to ask you guys about considering trading him. Are you already going into week 2 considering a trade here? Or, Coach, are you maybe in the camp of Henry, see what you can get out of him the next couple weeks and then try and trade him? Is this the highest his value is going to be overall? Will his value increase with a few good weeks in the coming future? But I guess focus on would you be trading or looking to trade Zeke right now?
So that's a good point, Henry. That's a bold take there on the Tony Pollard's better than a Zeke. I mean, that's when you hear first on this.
Start the year off strong, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm ready to go there. I was just looking, and last year in fantasy points allowed to running backs, Tampa Bay was number 1 by a decent margin. And to me, it looked game plan last night that they were going to that was how they wanted to attack Tampa Bay. I think they figured running against them was going to be an effort and futility, so they decided they were going to come out firing, and Dak looked great doing it. Personally, my take is always just like the stock market: buy low, sell high. If I have Zeke, I'm holding him right now, waiting for a big game or two to try shopping him. If I don't have Zeke, I float an offer out there and see maybe I can get him. And if I can give up an RB2 for him, or if somebody's willing to take a low ball offer on him right now, somebody that's throwing their hands up and like, oh, here we go again from last year, I'd be willing to throw an off route, see if I can lowball it and get him. Certainly won't sell him right now because I think the stock is way too low. I do think he'll have some bounce back games here, and then you could sell him if you truly think that Pollard's the better guy and this backfield's better off without him.
Yeah, I also think, not only did you take him high in the draft, you consciously made the decision, knowing what Zeke did last year, knowing he's already maybe on a slight decline in his career path. And like Henry said, you could have went a little bit further down the board. You didn't have to take Zeke. You chose to take Zeke. So you're probably stuck playing him right now regardless, which is why I came into this saying, he's plug and play for me until, multiple weeks of that kind of performance. But like you said, Coach, the offense looked good. Zeke wasn't out there doing nothing. They used him. They just didn't use him in a way that's going to produce fantasy points. So that's something to watch moving forward as well. And last two things concerning last night's game. Antonio Brown came out, had a monster of a game. I'm mad because I sat there and debated moving him off my bench. I was like, Tom Brady loves this guy. He's going to come back, probably have at least one tutty, but I left him on the bench. So is this type of performance what we should grow accustomed to seeing out of Antonio Brown, or is this kind of his peak performance and you shouldn't expect so much out of him as we move through the season? And on the other side of the card here, is there concern for Mike Evans owners? Is there just too much going on? Too many guys for Tom Brady to get the ball to? Is Mike Evans going to continue to suffer? So, Coach, let's start with you. You continue to expect that kind of performance, even relatively, out of Antonio Brown? And do you have any concerns for Mike Evans here?
Yeah, so going into this season, if I was taking a Tampa Bay wide receiver, which I really didn't in any leagues, the only wide receiver I was interested in was Antonio Brown. To me, I didn't have much interest in Godwin. There were guys around there that were more of an alpha for their team. So Mike Evans was a big concern for me this year. He had so much, all of his production last year was largely due to touchdowns, right? And then that's hard to sustain year over year. So I do think Antonio Brown, if I had to pick one wide receiver with the draft capital, definitely I would have taken Brown. Mm-hmm. I don't know if going forward, if he's going to be the wide receiver one every week there, but I believe Bruce Arians, who is incidentally one of my least favorite coaches from a fantasy perspective in the NFL, he said that Antonio Brown looked like he turned back the clock. He looked like he was playing like a couple of years ago, and I think he showed it last night. That's scary that he looked like that. So, yeah, as far as Mike Evans is concerned, I'd wait for his first 2 touchdown game, and I'd try and sell him, get something for him. I just think it's going to be – it looked like it was Godwin and Brown and Gronk last night were the 3 primary targets. So,
yeah, talk about fountain of youth, turning back the clock. Rob Gronkowski, man. And he was there, he was available in late rounds of every single draft I was in. Tight end, not extremely deep this year, but, Gronk looks like he's going to be able to be a tight end one on a week-to-week basis. Antonio Brown was also extremely far down the board, way further than both Evans and Godwin. So a ton of value there if you were able to pick him up. Henry, your thoughts on both Brown and Evans, and I guess the Tampa Bay offense as a whole?
Yeah, I got a little bit of Antonio Brown this year. I wasn't surprised to see it. When the Buccaneers brought him in middle of last season, and when he was eventually able to get out on the field there, when he was on the field, Tom Brady targeted him on like 25%, a quarter of his routes run in that neighborhood. There's trust between these two. Tom Brady literally helped him get his life together when AB needed a little help there, when he needed it most. So I think this is a rapport that we're going to continue to see throughout the season. Godwin would be the other guy in terms of wideouts. I was down on Mike Evans this year. And then Gronk, Brady and Gronk have had it forever, so no surprise to see them connect. I don't think last night, did we expect that many fantasy points out of them? I don't know. I didn't expect that many points in that game in general. It looked like, not much defense being played under the primetime lights. Maybe the NFL had a little say in that. Who knows? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I promise. We do have a chat question, our first one, which if you didn't see the show description or wherever you're watching, feel free to ask any week one start sit questions in the chat, and we will answer them here on the stream as we go. We come armed with a bunch of stuff to talk about, and obviously coaches' articles to run through, but questions from you viewers, we do get to those as well, and we'll throw our stuff on the back burner when we have to. So Cole is wondering about starting either DeAndre Swift or Daryl Henderson this week. So that would be Swift, and the Lions are at home against the 49ers, which is not a promising matchup, but it is DeAndre Swift there. And then Daryl Henderson, of course, dealing with a little bit of an injury through the last few weeks of the preseason. He and the Rams are going up against the Bears. I will say that Bears defense is not, I don't think, what a lot of people think it is, and definitely not what it used to be. A little suspect. Feel like a little better run defense there than pass, at least as far as I'm concerned. You guys have any?
I'll jump in here. And I just wanted to finish one final thought about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers really fast. Chris Godwin, I think, still has value moving forward. We saw him give up a ton of points with a fumble on the goal line, a missed pass while he was wide open behind a D-back. And then right at the end of the game, he had a chance to stay in bounds and find the end zone as well. So I still think that there's a lot of value and that Tom Brady's going to look for Chris Godwin quite a bit this season. But between Swift and Henderson, the Lions, man, are a total crapshoot, right? We have no idea what kind of schemes Dan Campbell are going to draw up. We have no idea what Jared Goff is going to look like in that baby blue jersey out there slinging the ball around. Is he not going to sling the ball around? Are they going to rely heavily on Swift? My take on this is Swift is a pretty good, pretty reliable player, and if Goff isn't coming out and hitting his spots, hitting his throws right away, maybe they kind of lean on Swift here in the early goings. Whereas Henderson, I think, is facing the opposite situation. You've got a quarterback in Matt Stafford who just cannot wait to get out there and throw the ball around for 1,000 yards a game. We know how Sean McVay coaches, and we know that their running backs have had success in the past. But I think that the Rams are going to lean on their quarterback and put the ball or move the ball downfield through the air significantly more in week one than the Lions maybe will. So I'm going to take Swift because he's probably going to find the end zone, or at least they're going to try and have him find the end zone. And he's probably going to get more work, I would think, overall than Henderson. So that's my 2 cents. Coach, what do you think?
I'm with you. I would start Swift of those two. I think it's there's more certainty there that Swift is going to be the 1A. I do see him being the focal point of that offense, whereas with the Rams, you got Woods, you got Cooper Kupp, and Lions, it's Swift's pretty much the show. I mean, unless you want to count on Ron St. Brown, I mean, it's pretty rough there. Jamal Williams is going to get some, and definitely Sony Michel is going to get some there for the Rams. But I would think even though the Lions offense is going to struggle to score, I think Swift is going to get, especially in PPR, he's going to get his check downs, and so I would go Swift.
Well, and in a red zone situation, outside of Swift, where are the Lions looking? Where are they going before Swift? He's got to be the number one option down there near the goal line. Would you agree, Henry?
Yeah, like Coach said, it's pretty much his show. If the Lions are trailing, which it seems like everyone thinks they will be in this game, Jared Goff's, we've seen him go out and sling it before, but we don't know what it's going to look like without Sean McVay there either. DeAndre Swift's going to have a role, whether it's on the ground, he can catch passes. And the other guy I'll throw out there in LA, now I'm seeing that both of these guys, they've been battling injuries, but both appear to be good to go for lead roles, full workloads is the latest reports I'm seeing. But Sony Michel is also a Ram. And I don't know, do you trust Sean McVay to, follow his word with a full run of Daryl Henderson here in week one? They already were talking about how they kind of want to preserve their backs, knowing that this is a longer season and knowing that they want to be fresh for the postseason. Like, this is a team that's going to win the Super Bowl this year. Same can't be said for Detroit. I think Michelle will have a role right away here in week 1. And I would say Swift is the way to go there. So Cole's follow-up question now regards his flex. So we're dropping Daryl Henderson down to flex consideration, and we're looking at Juju Smith-Schuster is another one we have, or I'm assuming it's Marvin
Jones Jr. is the only one I can think of.
Yeah, so thoughts on his flex spot, and then we've got Jiven.
As far as
if I said that wrong, I would say that 12-team PPR is pretty solid.
Pretty good. Pretty good. I was going to say there's really not much to say about that. I don't know who you were drafting with or how you ended up with that team, but I would take that in a heartbeat. I really don't see any weaknesses. You got a pretty deep running back committee, which is a lot harder to accomplish this year than wide receiver. I think receiver is the most plentiful, most deep position by a wide margin, but you got yourself a pretty solid team there, so I would not be worried.
As far as the 12-team PPR question there, is that an auction or is that a draft? Because that looks like a team that might have been assembled in an auction.
Either that or like you're playing with a bunch of rookies and you're the experienced one. That is a heck of a squad. So congratulations.
For sure.
I don't know how you pulled it off, but Kyler Murray, Najee Harris, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Kareem Hunt, Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, Antonio Brown, CeeDee Lamb, and Robbie Tunyon. Pretty darn good. He said he traded Kamara for Najee Harris and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, traded Godwin for so it's Javonte Williams and Hopkins. Yeah, I mean, you're just tossing your league around. I got to hand it to you.
Kudos.
So good for you. Good luck as we move through the season. We are down to about 20 minutes here before our hard out, so we're going to keep moving along. My easy answer here, Juju Smith-Schuster. I think he's a guy that's slowly lost value in people's eyes. He's slowly crept down the draft boards over the last couple of years, and I still think he's got a lot of good football in him. Obviously, you got to compete with Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool there as well. But last year with a Big Ben who wasn't rejuvenated, wasn't dieting, wasn't it has with this newfound attitude. All three of those guys still got plenty. There was still plenty there for them. They still all ate, still all found the end zone. I'm plugging Juju in there, and it's a pretty easy one for me, at least personally. I like the Steelers a lot this year. I took them over win totals. I took them to make the playoffs, both plus money. I have Deontay Johnson in like 4 or 5 out of my leagues. I actually really like the Steelers this year and the Steelers offense, so I'm going Juju.
Henry, if you're ready.
What was the question? So what about you, Coach?
So I'm looking. I was just kind of looking to see where I have these guys. I got my personal preference is I tend to like to stick a running back in the flex spot just because you get more volume there. I tend to be a very running back centric fantasy guy. So my initial thought is Henderson. And I think that's who I'd roll with of those three. I think I'd go with Henderson just because, this comes down to volume of touches. And I feel like Juju's definitely so I see it's a PPR. I feel like Juju's definitely the third man on that of the wide receivers there. I do think Jones Jr. is going to get some targets this week. I think that Lawrence is going to lean on him, but I think Henderson's going to get the most touches, have the best chance at scoring a touchdown, and I do think he's going to get some receptions as well. So I would go Henderson of those.
I guess I got to break the tie, and I'm going to side with Coach here. Now there were positives. I like both of you guys had stuff to say. I think the Steelers offense is underrated. So I like where you're going with that, Jake. Big Ben is slimmed down. He looks great in training camp. If anybody, I'm sure, saw the pictures, videos of him throwing around. So that is a plus. I think the Steelers will be better. seems like everyone's dismissing Roethlisberger going into the year, and I don't think that's going to necessarily be the case. But as far as week one goes, we're kind of going to be getting our first look at the offenses and who has what role, right? And I have to go with Coach. I think the running back is just going to have a little more volume there. Again, all reports seem to indicate Henderson is good to go as the lead guy here in week one after dealing with an injury during the preseason. He'll have some PPR role because Sony Michel is not a pass catcher. So that's going to be Henderson if a running back is catching passes there. And I just worry about I don't know. I got to see it from Juju. Like he had to wait forever just to get a deal to return to Pittsburgh. So that kind of tells me, how the Steelers view him in that offense with these two other young guys there. And then the Jags, I got to see something positive offensively because preseason was a horror show. And I know it's the Texans, but you got some other weapons there. Chark is going to be a go. And I don't know. I got to see something out of Urban Meyer and that offensive line before I really rush to play any Jaguars not named James Robinson, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time really believing in any sort of Jaguar or really any Jet right now. There's a few, Corey Davis, obviously, pretty hot name right now, but there's just more. I think there's guys that you can more heavily rely on in week one. Again, we got to remember it's week one. So we don't know, even with a guy like Juju, or a guy like Antonio Brown, they come out, put up 30. Who knows? They might not find the end zone for another 3-4 weeks. It is week one.
The good news, the other good news was starting Henderson.
I think I'm going to put a bet on him as an anytime scorer. I like him to score this week. I don't know. I think he's being completely overlooked. And I think everything is valid. All of the negative thoughts and things that people share on Juju, the fact that it took him forever to re-sign. I like him as an anytime scorer this week. Any final thoughts here before we breeze through? We got about 15 minutes to get through a couple of players here. I thought one of you guys maybe wanted to say something extra there.
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say the other good thing about starting Henderson is it's the Sunday night game, so you might have an idea where your matchup's going.
Sure.
If you're losing by a bunch, is what it is. If you're ahead, you're good. If you're in a matchup, you got that guy playing late. I always want to have the late guys when I can. That's just how I am. So, maybe a little peace of mind there too.
Late sweat.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, fair enough. Coach, one of the only guys that you singled out in your running backs article, because Gus Edwards no longer available, is Raheem Mostert. There's been whispers that he's going to have way bigger of a role than anybody has been letting on in that 49ers offense. You've also suggested to start Adam Thielen at the Bengals and Robbie Anderson versus the Jets. I don't think you've got too many arguments against those two wide receivers. I think those are pretty easy plug-and plays. Anything special you want to add on top of those three guys, though, which I completely agree they should all be in your lineup right away. Mostert, I think, is going to become one of those guys that was picked up way further down the board and should have been, is going to have a ton of value attached to him, especially with the way things are setting up for the 49ers. So anything on any of those three guys?
Yeah, as long as Mostert stays healthy, Trey Sermon might start eking into his workload at some point, but I think week one against the Lions, love it. And then Robbie Anderson, I'm throwing in a couple DFS lineups with Sam Darnold and Robbie Anderson in the revenge spot against the Jets. And so I like him a lot. I think he scores this week. If you want an anytime score, I like Robbie Anderson for that this week too.
And Henry, any thoughts on Robbie Anderson? I know he's maybe the one that got away, came out heck of a year last year, probably, looking to continue that this year. What are your thoughts?
I was happy Robbie Anderson left, and then he did what he did last year. Still happy Sam Darnold left. I really don't appreciate the Jets hate here right out of the gate, the first week of the podcast or the show. Come on, guys. No, but Robbie Anderson and Raheem Mostert are two low ADP guys who I think you can really make a strong case to start them over guys you might have drafted higher this week. I wound up writing all of the streamer articles this week. So check those out too. Maybe if you're looking at playing some matchups a little bit right out of the gates here in week one for some leans, Mostert and Anderson led off both the running back and wide receiver streamers. So Coach and I are right in sync there, I think. And I guess that's a good thing because it is week 1.
We'll see if it continues. Tight end was the hardest position to draft for me because if you don't get one of those 3, maybe 4 guys, all of a sudden it just becomes like a mess of just like guys that are, projected somewhere between 135 and 150 on the season. Like it's just, they're all just all guys on an equivalent, on an equal playing field. At least that's kind of how I saw it. So I went pretty much streamer this year. Like I'm going to treat the tight end position kind of like a kicker. I think I only have one stardom every single week outside of Noah Fant, who I seem to believe in way more than everybody else. But if things don't come through for Noah Fant, I have Kelsey in one league. Otherwise, I'm going to be streaming week to week. So hopefully we can make tight ends a staple of this show, at least spend 5 minutes a week on them or whatever. And definitely I'll continue to look at your articles as well. This week, I believe, Henry, you had Tyler Higby, and I just had it right in front of me. You had Tyler Higby, and then you had Chris Herndon. Any quick thoughts on either one of those guys? I like Tyler Higby because I just like I like the Rams to really, really spread the ball around, and like I said, really move the ball downfield, use that arm that Matthew Stafford's got attached to him, but because it's a new weapon that McVay has never had. He's never had a quarterback that can throw the ball in this type of manner. So I like Lions pass catchers, I like Rams pass catchers, including Tyler Higby. Is there any case that you can make for Herndon over Higby here, quick, or is what do you think here, Henry?
I think Higby's a guy that, if you drafted him late or if he's still available and you grab him here for week 1 as a streamer, if you're in a situation kind of like Jake's, he might be a guy you hang on to. There's a lot of mouths to feed out there in LA, but I think Higby does have a role. Stafford obviously liked to use Hawkinson back in Detroit. Now is Higby as good as Hawkinson as a football player? I don't know. But he's going to have a role. I'm really high on this Rams offense and just the team there in general. Herndon was more of a deep streamer, when I'm writing the article, right? Thoughts and prayers to Irv Smith Jr. Really bummed that he went down here in the preseason because I think this was it was going to be his breakout year. Really talented tight end out of Alabama. He's been waiting in the wings there, splitting roles with Kyle Rudolph last year, and as he got more run down the stretch, he really shone bright, I thought, and I was excited to see what the Vikings would do with him. But now former Jet Chris Herndon comes in. He's not the only guy there. We'll have to see what kind of shakes out. But Herndon was a bust with the Jets. Everyone thought he was a lot better than he was, and it just really never seemed to work out. There were numerous issues, it seemed like, that plagued him. Maybe a change of scenery and a quarterback who loves to pepper the tight end position are ways to look there. And the other thing I'll add, everybody in that streamer's article, Zach Ertz was the third one. Now, people are going to have different views on how Goddard, Ertz, can they both be fed enough here right out of the gates? But all 3 defenses those teams are facing, so the Vikings, the Bengals, the Rams, the Bears, and then the Eagles are playing the Falcons. All 3 of those teams were bottom 5 in fantasy points allowed to the tight end position specifically last year. So, we'll see if that carries over. But I think those are some deep guys you can look at here for week 1.
Yeah, that's a great stat. Glad you brought that up because I would have never found that in my own digging. But and I hope you guys are okay with talking tight ends, in depth here a little bit on this stream because I do think tight end is a very tough position. I'm assuming that there's other people out there that are in my spot where you didn't even consider tight ends until, the much later rounds because there's just nobody worth taking in the 4th or 5th round anymore once those top couple guys are gone. So definitely, if you're struggling with tight ends or if you're going to struggle with tight ends throughout the season, come hang out with us here and we're going to help steer you in the right direction. I just looked it up. Juju Smith-Schuster is actually only plus 210 as an anytime scorer, so not that much value. Hardly more than guys like Cole Beasley or Chase Claypool. So I don't know. I guess I don't love the bet as much as I thought I was going to, but I still think he's going to score this week. Coach, we'll wrap things up with just a little bit of quarterback conversation here. You've got Jalen Hurts as a start against the Falcons. You've also got Ryan Tannehill against the Cardinals. Joe Burrow as a sit against the Vikings. And you've got Justin Herbert as a sit against the Washington football team. I really don't like that one because I've got Herbert starting in about half of my 7 leagues. Figure that one out. And I'm also going to be betting on the Chargers this weekend. So let's start with Herbert. Why don't you like him? And then just give me a couple points on both Hurts and Tannehill as well.
Yeah, so the matchup against the Redskins is really tough. So last year, the Redskins defense was amongst the league leaders in points allowed to quarterbacks as far as fantasy points. They had a really great defense against quarterbacks. And so here you have Herbert going on the road. It's a noon game. You know, historically, we always look at these West Coast teams traveling east for noon games. You got a terrible matchup against the football team's defense. Just about said Redskins there, but I just a force of habit, you know.
Saved yourself.
Yeah.
I'll allow it on the show. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, so for me, if you have Herbert, you probably have to start him. You probably don't have a quarterback maybe you don't even have a backup quarterback, so you might have to start him. Just saying, maybe you want to shoot for some more upside with your flex, or just temper your expectations. I certainly don't expect him to have a big game this week. And certainly if you have another viable option, I would consider it this week. If perhaps you're in a smaller league, or you took another good quarterback, or it's a situation like that, I would certainly consider starting someone else over him.
How far down the board you going? Are you comfortable with, like, say, a Ben Roethlisberger?
Don't know if I'd go Roethlisberger. Let's see. For quarterbacks that I would consider above Herbert here, I would look at, for the less obvious names, I would certainly do Tannehill for sure.
Matt Ryan?
I would go Matt Ryan. I think that game could turn into a shootout. I would go Matt Ryan over Herbert. I would put Herbert. I would possibly Sam Darnold and Herbert this week could be. That one's kind of the breaking point for me. I think I'd start Herbert over Trevor Lawrence just because it's his first start. Probably a Sam Darnold. But if you have another guy that's a top 13, 14 quarterback, I'd consider that over Herbert.
And you already said you kind of like, Ryan Tannehill. You've got him as a start in your article, and we know all the talent he's had to work with in the last couple of years. And now they add a guy like Julio Jones, who I think is another guy that people are just wanting to forget about and trying to push off into the sunset, who's just not quite ready to go yet. Henry, why don't we finish up with some thoughts here? You were against Jalen Hurts. You and I made a bet last year when Jalen Hurts started those last few games. You didn't really think he was going to muster up pretty much anything. Coach has him as a starting a guy in his starting position this weekend. I am curious to know what you think of Jalen Hurts. Have you come around on him through the offseason? What do you think of the Eagles situation as a whole? And do you like him moving forward, not just in week one? Curious to your Jalen Hurts thoughts here.
Well, he proved me wrong in fantasy. I will say that. So my thoughts on Jalen Hurts, fantasy-wise, are very different, I guess I would say, than my thoughts on the Eagles. So long as Jalen Hurts is the Eagles' starting quarterback and they're playing teams like the Falcons, I think there is some value there. However, the trade for Gardner Minshew, Joe Flacco is also hanging around there. I don't know that the Eagles are going to stick with Jalen Hurts, and that kind of leads to my thoughts on the Eagles as a whole, predicting a last-place finish in the NFC East once again. As bad as that division was last year, and the Eagles could only win 4 games, that pretty much, the defense is getting old. Offensive line has question marks. I still have question marks, honestly, about their receivers. And the secondary, other than Darius Slay, there's nothing there. The Eagles are going to be a fade betting-wise this year, looking at these games. I like the Falcons a lot this week if we want to go that direction. I think Jalen Hurts does have some fantasy value, though, and I'm with Coach on fading Justin Herbert this week. Until proven otherwise, I don't want anything to do with going against Washington's defense. If I can avoid it this year, that defensive front, they are without a doubt, personally, in my opinion, I mean, maybe the Bucs, but they are the most talented in the NFL. The secondary is rock solid. Now you got Ryan Fitzpatrick down there too. It blows my mind. I know you said you're going to bet on the Chargers, so I guess we're going head-to-head right out of the gates this year, Jake. It blows my mind that the Redskins are Washington is catching a point at home in this matchup. I don't know if Washington's going to live up to some expectations people have for them this year, because they do face a brutal schedule, and that's kind of the pitfall of finishing first last year in that awful division. But I like them this week at home. A couple questions in the chat too.
I know Coach has to go in like 2 minutes, so let's fire through these really fast. Rank your QBs in your league. I don't know if you have all of those QBs or not. If you do, you're totally set. Allen's number one. Mahomes and Dak, you could go back and forth all day for me. You guys answer this one real quick. Start Gaskin or Tyron Williams at flex PPR.
So of those two, I would go Gaskin. I think that his workload is going to be more secure. He's proven it. We've seen it. Tougher matchup, certainly, than Tyson Williams. I do like Tyson Williams this week as a start, but if I had to choose between him or Gaskin, I feel like Gaskin's probably got the safer floor. Now, if you're down, and I'm not sure what time, I'm guessing that the Dolphins play at noon on Sunday, but otherwise Williams plays on Monday night. So, but you have to make a decision before then. So I would go Gaskin, unless you're a heavy underdog. Maybe you want to swing for the fences with Williams, but I think Gaskin's going to be the safer player.
Any counter thoughts there? Or are you in agreement, Henry?
I actually disagree. I would go Tyson Williams here. I think the Raiders are maybe it's not necessarily what I think of the Raiders, but what I think of the Patriots defense. 7 opt-outs or something ridiculous last year. And, oh, by the way, they signed some guys and got better. And I am down on the Dolphins offense until Tua Tagovailoa proves me otherwise. And I don't really know that comes here early in the year with Will Fuller out of that lineup. They didn't sign Malcolm Brown for nothing. Ahmed is still there. I'm down on Myles Gaskin in general for fantasy. I don't know that he's going to be a workhorse like some people think. And, we already talked about the Ravens back at the beginning of the show. Who else is going to be taking carries in that run heavy of an offense? Now, obviously, Lamar is going to run it himself, but Le'Veon Bell's probably not going to get that much work. He just got signed. And these other guys definitely are really not in the mix, I don't think, for any significant workload this week. I got to go Williams. I really do. And, it's like close, but I don't know. I'm scared to go against the Patriots defense this year too.
Fair enough. Solid arguments on both sides. Definitely come back next week. Let us know who you ended up starting and how it went for you. We appreciate all the interaction in the chat, especially this, the first stream of the year. So we like and encourage all those questions. Please bring more next week. Bring your friends. We're going to be doing this each and every week for the next, 16, 17 weeks. Just a few house cleaning items. I don't think people really believe in Nick Sirianni either. So, if that factors into your Eagles thoughts at all as well. And then the Chargers, I've got them +1. So the football team is laying a point. Obviously, that's just difference in lines of when we got in. And the third and final thing, Henry, you said, don't be so mean to my Jets right at the first stream beginning of the season. I will be betting on the Jets this year. I've got Zach Wilson +800 to lead the league in interceptions. So I am cheering for the Jets in that fashion. And as I can see,
I think Coach has to go. I think I have to go now too.
Yeah, I was going to say, as I see, I've disgusted Henry.
Catch me never again.
We've kept Coach a couple minutes long. We are going to sign off here. Thank you again. Week 1 of the Sit 'em Start 'em stream. We'll be back next week. Coach Henry, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks to you for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, guys. Good luck, everyone.
Check out all those articles. Good luck.